All right, good morning. Today I'm headed over to an adjacent town. Buddy of mine and my neighbor, he does rental houses, and he's got one that he's fixing up right now. I'm going to help him with a little bit of electrical work. And anyway, I haven't done a full ride in a little while. Still on
turn left onto Fortner Street.
Software update for FSD 13.2.9. There have been several small, like minor update type updates to the truck software. No major updates or even minor updates for that matter for actual FSD in the last few weeks. The Robotaxi launch is within just a few days now over in Austin. They did spot some actually testing with no driver just this past week. And so I expect the next major release will probably be related to that once they get some of the testing ironed out. Because I know that they're, based on some of the stuff that Elon Musk has said on X, those cars are running the next version of the software right now, which I imagine would be major version 14. So hopefully here in the next few weeks, once they test that out a little while, we'll get version 14, which will be the next major jump. He talked about, I think, a 4x increase in the number of parameters that it looks at, which is pretty wild. I don't know fully what all that means as far as what those parameters are, but what it sounds like essentially is just increasing the amount of resolution, all the different things that it's looking at and available information that it has to make decisions off of. So that'll be exciting to see version 14, because there's only been two major version changes since I got FSD a year and a half ago, and that we were in version 11 then. Version 12 is what changed over from a purely code-based system to the end-to-end neural net, where it was basically trained on previous videos and used AI for all the learning of the brains of the system. And then going from version 12 to version 13 had a lot of pretty major improvements as well. So it'll be interesting going to version 14 to see how that increase in parameter count changes things, how it makes things better, because it really is just, it's constantly tweaking the system. Even in version 11, it was probably 90% of the way. You still had to help it, 8 to 10% of the time maybe. And these numbers are very ballpark, because it depends on where you were driving and what the situations were. But going to version 12, the end-to-end, it eliminated a lot of the issues that version 11 had. And so then it was probably more like 97, 98% capable of autonomy. Version 13 has been, I would say, easily 99%. As you've seen in the videos that I've posted, it essentially, it is capable enough to where it's not any more of a burden to supervise it and make sure it doesn't mess up than it is to let it do its thing, because it is so few and far between, and the corrections that I have to make typically are more preferential type things. Is it going to pull out and go quickly enough to where it doesn't make the guy behind you irritated? It's not a safety thing. It's not going to pull out in front of somebody and risk a collision. But is it going to wait too long at a yield sign and have somebody behind me get irritated with me? It's little tweaks like that just, trying to make it a little more human-like, which I refer to a lot, because that's kind of where you want to get with the comfortability. Is it going to be predictable enough to act just like if I was watching a friend of mine drive and wasn't really thinking about it at all. But I hope these videos kind of show how capable it is over time, and having a record of what it was like 2 versions ago versus now. It would be interesting to go back several versions worth of FSD drives and watch it just to see what it does. I did something dumb the other day that I'll confess to on here, and kind of got ourselves stuck somewhere for about half an hour the other day. The way the software updates work, it's very similar to your phone, where when you get an iOS update or an Android update, and it'll give you a notification on the screen and on your phone that basically says, hey, you've got this update. It gives you the point release. It gives you a synopsis of what the changes are. And then it gives you the option of when do you want to install this update. Because just like with your phone, it does require things like a reboot of the system and things that's going to make it undrivable for that period of time. I've never seen one go beyond an hour. Most of them are 55 minutes. I don't know why that time is significant. Clean that dust with that screen a little bit. I don't know why 55 minutes is significant, but that's typically what it tells you. And most of the time when you get one of those, either I'm sitting there at work, or I'm already at home, or it's overnight, and so it doesn't matter that it takes that long. Since it does give you the option of when you want to do it, it's not just going to surprise you with it. And that's the reason that I thought of this, is because somebody had posted something on X or Facebook or something a little while back, and the story was circulating about this person who had gone somewhere, and all of a sudden their car started updating itself, and now they're stuck and they can't go anywhere. And I replied to that because it was misleading the way it was presented.
In 500 feet, turn left onto West Main Street.
Basically saying that it just decided automatically to update itself and had that person stranded while it was updating.
Now turn left onto West Main
because
Street.
the reason it was, and I'm sure, there's so many things that are out there that are just to generate clicks, to get viewership, and it's clickbait essentially. And so I guess they fulfilled their purpose there, but it's completely up to the user as far as when the update actually happens. So you are never going to be just surprised for no reason that an update's happening and it be out of your control. But the thing that I messed up with the other day is I had an update come up. It said, hey, this update's available. The downloading of the update, if you have it set to automatically receive the updates, anytime you're within a fast enough internet range, if you get within your Wi-Fi range of your house, or whatever internet you've got, whatever connection you've got established with your vehicle, it'll go ahead and download the update, which does not disable anything. It's just all it is loading the information from the internet onto the onboard memory. The installation part, the part that actually, I guess, updates the firmware and updates the actual vehicle from that update. And again, that's the same thing with your phone. It'll download the update and then it'll install the update. And those are 2 distinct phases. It doesn't do that at the same time. So anyway, headed home from work one day, had the update say, hey, this is available as soon as you get within your internet, your Wi-Fi range or whatever, it's going to download. And then it gives you the option of when you want to schedule it. So it'll tell you, hey, you can, some of that can be pre-programmed to say, hey, I want my updates to come through at X time. If you're normally at home, after a certain time, you can tell it, here's when I normally want this to happen. And so when that screen pops up, it gives you the option to install now after everything is downloaded. So we were about to head to dinner, actually to church first and then to dinner. And I had not thought about dinner afterwards. I should have, because on Wednesday nights we typically go eat Mexican food after church. But I wasn't thinking about that. I've been on night shift for a few weeks and schedule's all kind of out of whack. And so, and just in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, church lasts from, 6 to 7. I'll give myself a whole hour buffer after church. We live just a few miles from church. And so I just punched in instead of, obviously I didn't want to install now because I was just getting home from work. We were about to load up and head back to church. So I said, yeah, let's just program that for 8 so I don't forget to install it tonight. We'll go ahead and just make it 8 o'clock, which in my mind I'm thinking we'll be back home. And we had gone to church, left, and I had totally, at this point, forgotten about this update that was pending, that I had already scheduled for 8 o'clock. So that's the part that's completely on me. So we go to eat Mexican food. We're sitting there, we're hanging out, we're eating, and we leave the restaurant, and it's about 8:30. I think it was 8:25 to be exact, because I was there thinking when I had scheduled it to begin after this, but still didn't cross my mind when we walked out to the truck. And depending on what phase, so needless to say, it had started its update at 8 o'clock, exactly when I scheduled it to start, while it's sitting there in the parking lot at the Mexican place, and still didn't remember it. I mean, we ate, food was good, all that kind of stuff, our normal routine. We eat at the same place a lot. So we walk out to the truck. Depending on what phase of the installation it's in, different things may or may not work. So we walked out of the truck, doors unlocked, opened up just like normal. I help my wife get in the truck. I go to the back to put her wheelchair in the back, and normally I'll pop the tailgate and roll the tonneau cover up just a few feet, just enough to where the wheelchair will fit in there without me having to take it apart. But the tonneau cover wouldn't move, and I thought, well, crap, I pushed the normal up, like kind of press and hold the toggle up button, and nothing happened. And then I pushed it again, nothing happened. I kind of gave it a little bit of a shake, like it stuck. The whole time it is not dawning on me at all that it was in the middle of a software update. And so my mind immediately goes to, man, I guess my button went out. I guess my switch for my tonneau cover somehow has gone out, because it just was not responding. So I even pulled my phone app out, pulled the Tesla app up, but you can control the tonneau cover from there. And it didn't even give me the option. It showed the tailgate, unlatched, but the tonneau cover was not even listed. And I thought, man, what, it still did not even cross my mind about this update. Should have long before that. But so I went ahead and did, popped the wheels off the wheelchair. It'll still fit in there with the just with the tailgate by itself down. You can slide it in the tailgate area as long as you take the wheels and everything off of it. So I popped those off. Even had to take one armrest off because of the way it fits in there, and slid everything in there, shut the tailgate, and I was like, well, I'll just have to deal with the rest of this later. I mean, it looks like my tonneau cover for some reason is not working. And so I came and got in the truck, and as soon as I got in, my wife and son had already been seeing some different things. When I got in, the screen had not booted up yet. It was saying something about a software update and had a status bar on it. And at that moment, it hit me. I mean, I had enough signs before that I should have picked up on it. But my first sense was actually relief, because that's a whole lot better than my tonneau cover switch being broken. And so I had this sense of relief and this sense of just embarrassing dread all of a sudden, because I was like, shoot, that's, if it's a 55-minute update, it's 8:25. We've got until just about 9 o'clock before this thing is for sure going to be ready to go. And we're just sitting here, in the front of the Mexican place, and I felt like the biggest idiot, that I didn't even think about us going out to eat, which is what we always do after Wednesday night church. And so then basically I stranded us there for a little while. Fortunately, it's in the place we eat's in a little strip mall, and there's a grocery store right next door, and we had some groceries that we really needed to get. We had not planned on stopping there, but I was like, after I explained what happened and, fessed up to being dumb, basically, we got back out and just walked next door to the store and picked up the groceries that we needed to pick up, and it was ready. You know, while we were walking around, I got a notification on my phone and my watch saying, hey, update's installed. So it ended up being not that big a deal. But I say all that to say, even though, yes, it was 100% my fault, typically I do not use the schedule function. I typically just wait until I'm back at home or where I know I'm not going to need it for a while, and then I just tell it, yep, go ahead and download it and do it manually, because that is a risk that you've got that you're taking if you just put a time in the future, is that either you may forget what plans you had, or something may come up where, you know, plans change and you don't remember what time you set it for, and you know, you really could get yourself stuck somewhere for a little while if you're not careful. So I just want to bring that up, partially just because it's funny that I did that within a week of, you know, really calling somebody out for, and what they said was really incorrect. They were portraying it as it automatically doing it and stranding them somewhere, when what they really probably did, even if it wasn't their intent to deceive their audience, which I'm not convinced that it wasn't, but it's very possible that they had that pop-up come up and just acknowledged it, not realizing that it was giving them a time, you know, because sometimes it'll default and just say, hey, do you want to install now, or do you want to schedule it for whatever time it shows? They might have just hit yes to get the box to go away, not realizing that they had scheduled it for whatever time it was. I think it defaulted to 7 the other night, and I did change it because I knew, hey, we're going to be leaving church about that time. I don't want it to start an update right about the time we need to be leaving church, so I bumped it up to 8, you know, thinking in my mind at the time that we were going to be back at home in plenty of time for that update to start. And so anyway, just one of those things that you got to keep in mind if you're going to run that update, and it'll be no different with any other electronic device. You know, if you say, oh, a new iOS came through, sure, let's go ahead and update it, and you're out somewhere and need your phone and it's in the middle of installing the update, then you could be stuck without that too. It could be a little bit bigger deal though, and it's your primary mode of transportation that you're updating. So just thought I'd point that out there, just as kind of a funny thing on my part that really freaked me out for a minute. But it was just funny because the sense of, oh my goodness, I'm such a dummy. Why in the world did I not think about us going out to eat? But laying that on top of the sense of relief that it's not my tonneau cover switch that's messed up, because our nearest service center is down in Pensacola, which where we live, it's about an hour and a half from there. So I really did not want to have to go make a special trip to get this switch looked at. But anyway, that was that the other day. So that was when this update that I mentioned at the beginning was installed for the latest software. I'm probably going to grab some breakfast at Chick-fil-A when I get kind of close to where my buddy's rental house is. And one thing that's kind of neat, and there may be, this may not be specifically a Tesla user interface navigation thing, and I'm sure since I've been in a vehicle that has a more, within the last couple of years recently updated navigation system. But one of the neat things about the Tesla navigation and the user interface is they make it super easy to modify your route if you decide to make another stop. And so one of those things, there's a little 3 dots button right here, and you get the options to add a stop, to edit trip, which those are subtle differences, but you can basically, you can add a stop when you edit the trip, but that also allows you to switch. If you're stopping multiple places, you can go into edit trip and just drag and drop your locations in a different order. You know, let's say you're going to several different places within your same town. One appointment moves up ahead of another one, then you can swap those things around. But if you just want to add a stop, when you hit add a stop, it says search along route. I'm gonna search for Chick-fil-A. You can say see locations. It's gonna make me touch the wheel because I'm paying more attention to my screen right now. So if I go over to my destination location, there's this Chick-fil-A in Enterprise. I can select that.
Drive northwest on West
And so now it just pops it in as the next stop before our final destination, and it shows in your navigation there that that's your next stop, and then it automatically goes back to its existing screen. So now instead of me having to remember, especially while I'm distracted, maybe talking on the video, and I'm not as familiar. I mean, this is an adjacent town to where we live, but it's not as familiar to me as driving around Dothan where we live. So I don't have to remember to turn off the navigation and stop there without it, driving right past it. Which is, I guess, one thing you have to think about when you're letting the car drive for you, is that as much as you kind of get in autopilot mode, even when you're manually driving, if you know where you're going and you've done the drive, especially like the commute to work that you could almost do in your sleep per se, you kind of zone out and just drive and you're not really thinking about each individual turn and things like that. When the car is driving for you, even if you are paying attention and supervising it, you think less and less about those specific turn-by-turn type things. You're just sort of there and you're watching, kind of like if your buddy was driving. So if you don't have those pre-programmed stops in your route, you can easily let it drive right past there and go on to your actual programmed destination. But anyway, we're about 10 miles from our next turn. Had I guess a moderate amount of traffic today. This highway connects Dothan to Enterprise, and so it's a pretty mundane route. I'm always concerned with these rides that there's going to be long periods of potentially boring sections, and I don't want people to tune out right in the middle, because it's just sitting there being boring. So, which is part of the reason I give some commentary in the middle, so that it stays at least a little bit engaging. And speaking of that, if comments are great for the algorithm as far as YouTube picking up who it shows the video to. So if you're watching this video and you have any questions, please send those to me in the comments. That always does help viewership when people are commenting on it, and the algorithm sees that people are interacting with the video. So that does help, and it also helps me to know what people like to see, what's beneficial, what's entertaining, what people might want to see more of. So please feel free, if you're watching this, to get on, just pull up the comments, shoot me a question, give me a suggestion on something you might want to see in a future video, if there's anything you're curious about, whether it's something that's happened on this video or just something you've been wondering that maybe I haven't covered before. And I'll be glad to read through. I do read through all the comments. I don't get a ton of them. I'm up to 428 subscribers, which is still a very modest subscriber count. But again, this is the opposite end on the spectrum from what I do normally. I've got a full-time job plus lots of stuff to do at home, and so I'm pretty busy with everything else. This is strictly a hobby, something I enjoy doing on the side. I like kind of educating people about what Tesla is up to lately, what FSD is capable of, just to try to inform people. There is so much just wrong information out there. There's so much incorrect information. Some of it is intentional in its incorrect information. I'll say that. For whatever reason, whether it be for political reasons or whatever. There's just a lot of information out there that is just wrong. It's just bad information. I see it all the time, and especially with my channel and with the things that I follow on X and on Facebook. I'm just in that world of the information that's flying around about EVs and Tesla, and there's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of just really, really bad and incorrect, just purely incorrect information out there. And the incorrect stuff, most of the time, like with most deceiving information, it usually will have a shred of truth, but it will be portrayed either really in the wrong context, or it will be blown way out of proportion. And a lot of times it feeds off of either old preconceptions or old reality, the way that EVs used to be, way back in the day. And a lot of that has changed now. There's so much stuff now that is just absolutely not an issue that used to be in the past. When you only had a couple of options of EVs, and the charging was terrible, and there's nowhere to charge, and it took forever, and the range was way, way low. A lot of those things were reality several years ago, and I don't think Tesla has absolutely led the charge in improving a lot of that stuff. The range, the charging speeds, the availability of charging locations. I've said a bunch of times that my channel is specific to Tesla and FSD because that's what I know, that's what I've experienced. I'm not going to go unless I've seen some valid information about something else that I can make a comparison to. And I can't get on here and tell you how the experience is with a Mustang Mach-E or with an Audi e-tron or a Porsche Taycan. I don't have those experiences with those things. Now, I have seen some first-hand experiences of other people about the charging on some of those other ones not being as great because some of the other generic charging manufacturers, they don't have the infrastructure and they don't have the charging speeds that Tesla affords, and some of that's on the vehicle side that limits those speeds. But my experience is with Tesla, and I can tell you from using it as my daily driver for the last almost 2 years now. In July, it'll be 2 years since I've had my Model Y. In August, it'll be 2 years since I've had nothing but Teslas. And that's been my not only primary, but my only mode of transportation is either the Model Y or this Cybertruck. And I can tell you the experience has been phenomenal. Like I've not missed our old vehicles, and our old vehicles were great. Like I had nothing against it, and I never did and still don't have any issue with people driving internal combustion engine cars. I don't have an issue with it. I could care less what people want to drive. What I want to make sure that they have is actual good information, because I've had such a positive experience driving these Teslas over the last almost 2 years. I just want to let other people know the truth about it, because again, there is so much bad information out there, a lot of negative information, and a lot of that is from people that don't really have the real information. It's people that are extending these just false narratives about what it's like to have an EV, coupled with a lot of political stuff surrounding it. And it's just not correct. It's false information. And so that's part of what I want to do, is just show my experiences on here and explain as best I can, and show when possible what it's really like. And FSD is a big piece of that, because it makes life a ton easier. It's much more pleasant to sit and just kind of enjoy the ride somewhere, without the mental fatigue and constant mental engagement that it does manually driving. And some people may laugh at that because even when I say it, I think, well, people are going to look at that and say driving is not that difficult. It's not that mentally taxing to drive. And while there's some truth to that, I'd been driving for 25 years. I'm over 40 now. I'm 42. I drove manually for a very, very, very long time. This is a pretty new thing for me, but I can tell you from my direct experience, letting your car drive you somewhere, it's about as big a difference as most people within my generation, and certainly the generation before me, probably remembers when cruise control became a big thing. And if you remember how big of a difference it is driving on the highway with cruise control, which even basic cruise that only manages your speed is a pretty big relief versus sitting there and having to hold your foot and maintain speed manually the whole time. Just being able to relax that foot and let it just drive, even though you're still having to steer and adjust your speed and all this kind of stuff. The difference from completely manually to using cruise control, and even up into and including adaptive cruise control that'll actually do some of the lane keeping and distance keeping for you, it's at least as big a jump, if not more, going to FSD where you're now hands off the steering wheel and you're just watching. I'm gonna back up on that a little bit. It's a much bigger difference going from just cruise to FSD as it was going from just completely manual to cruise. It's a different level of,
in 1 mile, turn right onto Ballweaver
just,
Circle.
I guess, mental relaxation, I guess. Now we're within 1 mile. We're coming up on Ballweaver Circle, and so I imagine this is a Friday, but there's enough cars on the road where once we get up to this intersection, we should have a little bit more traffic come up. For anybody that's brand new to the channel, not only does FSD do an excellent job on the highway like we've been on, but it's also capable of all of your normal maneuvers within a city too. So, which you did see me with that red light caught us back there, and you saw it stop completely by itself. It's going to have us make a right on this circle up here. So, depending on how the light is when we get there, it'll have us either going through the yield. I see it's changing way up ahead, so we are going to have to stop here and at least yield, and so you'll get to see it do some of that decision making.
Now turn right onto Ballweaver
And I'm gonna expand this over so you can see the whole visual as we approach this intersection. This does have its own dedicated turn lane, so you'll see it turn here. And because they've got a green turn arrow, there's really not much of a decision there. It knows they have the turn, so it knows that this cross traffic is not going to be able to go. So those type situations are, just as commonly done well as driving straight on the highway. I mean, it absolutely does not have any issue with those type things. We got 1 minute before it's going to pull into Chick-fil-A.
Then turn left onto Ballweaver Circle.
And I am, the end of drive actions, whether it's parking, if you're pulling through a drive-through, things like that, are still, I'll have to take over to get into this drive-through, because it's not going to go through the drive-through for me in manual. Some of that stuff's just because it doesn't know
Now turn right.
exactly what I want to do when I get to Chick-fil-A. Did I want to park and go in? Did I want to deal with the drive-through? So this is watching what these cars are doing. That car stopped, so it went ahead and made this left. Didn't touch anything there, because I'm going to let it go ahead and get
Now
me
turn right.
on into here, and then I'll navigate over to the drive-through. So there's Chick-fil-A here on the left. It's pulling right here, and we're now in the parking lot. So
you will arrive at your destination.
what I'm going to do, because it's actually it was about to pull me in and park right there, which is really funny that it does that now. But so I've got control now. I've taken over, and I'm going to Looks like I got to swing around the building here to enter the drive-through, which all these are a little bit different. Here we go.
Now you have arrived at your destination.
So I'm gonna go through and order a breakfast burrito here in a minute, so I'll be held out until I can get back home for lunch. Chick-fil-A's drive-thrus are usually handled pretty well, and they're set up to be pretty easy to navigate. But I will say, having the four-wheel steering in the Cybertruck, even though it is about dimensions-wise, it's about F-150 size. It does have adaptive air suspension, so if you get into a situation where you've got a lower headroom, like if you're going into a parking garage, you can manually raise and lower the suspension. But as far as its standard width and length, it's about the size of an F-150, within an inch or two. It's pretty close. But some of these drive-thrus, there's a Taco Bell close to our house that is extremely narrow, and some of those turns with curbs on either side can be a little hectic in a larger truck. I drove a Tundra for several years, and it's a bigger truck, and so those can be kind of tight in little drive-thrus like this. But four-wheel steering, it makes it feel like you're maneuvering a small car through areas versus a full-size truck. Just thought I'd point that out there if people were unfamiliar with four-wheel steering.
Oh, look at. Hi, Mr. Barry. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
925, sir.
There you go.
I love your Tesla.
Thank you.
I love
Appreciate it. I love it too.
Yeah, we saw one gentleman drive it. He let us look through the whole thing when they first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. This is so cool. So what is the QR code for?
It's my YouTube channel.
Oh,
They
nice.
just a lot of people see it and they wonder what it is, and they scan it and it goes straight to my YouTube
All right,
channel. Here,
well,
I can
let's
pull up
get
a little
you
bit.
scanned here.
Alright.
Subscribe.
Awesome. Thank you.
Done.
Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. My pleasure. All right, Mr. Barry. God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
My pleasure.
There you go. And that's why it's beneficial to have a QR code stuck on the side of your car if you have a YouTube channel. I just got a subscriber in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. All right, and here's another case where this is kind of it's a weird parking lot. There's a lot of one-way lanes and stuff right here. So what I'm gonna do is let's turn that on, and you can see without me even doing anything. I mean, the road that I'm going is that way, but this is a one-directional, angled parking space situation, and it knew that. Without me putting on my blinker ahead of time or anything, it knew that it needed to take a left to follow the flow of traffic through this parking lot and not go the wrong way. You can see these three pedestrians that are walking across. It's automatically slowing down and stopping for them. Now that they're gone, it's going to continue on. This is another one-way coming this way. So it's driving down toward the end of this lot. We'll see which path it decides to take to get back up to the light. It's coming up this way, and so it's bringing me out to the light just on the front edge of this parking lot. We got somebody in an SUV about to pull out there. It sees them, but they have stopped for us to yield. Just gonna wait right there, and yep. So this is an odd spot where the lanes from the parking lot don't really line up with the turn lane. That was not an issue for it whatsoever. It came on over, got in the far right turn lane because we're headed on to the right, the direction we were headed originally. Now here's one of those spots where if someone gets behind me, I might help it out. There's nobody waiting right now, so I'm going to let it do its thing. This does give you the ability, there's a little sign up by the red light that gives you the, tells you can turn right on red after a stop. And right now it looks like it's waiting. So, you know, this is one of those cases where if there was someone behind me, I don't want to irritate them, so I would probably give it a little bit of accelerator and get it to go. You don't have to take over in this situation, but you can urge it on by giving it a little bit of accelerator, and it'll just take that prompt and go with it. Okay, so without me having to do that, it went on. You know, the light did go ahead and change, and it went on. So that's a good example of where, depending on the situation, depending on if I need to go to not irritate somebody, you know, I don't want to push its capabilities to the point where I'm bugging other drivers. I mean, I try to still be a courteous driver, even though I'm kind of experimenting with it. I mean, it's fun to test the software and see what it's capable of. So I like to give it as much of a chance as I can to go ahead and do what it's going to do on its own, especially when I'm recording it, so that I don't interrupt it and kind of mess up what it would really do, because people, you know, they were curious about, and I'm curious about what it's going to do in different situations. You can be pretty certain that it's going to do the right thing as far as the safe thing. Sometimes it does overly conservative things, which, depending on the traffic situation, can be annoying to other drivers. So I try to balance being a courteous driver to just letting it do its thing and see what it's going to do. And so in that case, I was able to just leave it without even a prompt. I didn't give it any accelerator because the light changed before I felt I needed to. So we've got just a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I got my card back. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and eat at least some of this before I get to where I'm going, so that I don't waste any time, so we can get started. Like I said, it's only about 4 minutes to our destination, but I've never had too much of a problem eating while I drive. A lot of people do not have a problem with it. A lot of people eat while they drive, but I definitely did before, you know, tailor what I would eat if I was having to drive, on how easy it's going to be to eat and drive. So when you're not even having to touch the wheel, it opens up a lot of possibilities for what you can eat. Because you basically got both hands free. Now, obviously, don't be dumb with it. You know, if it does something stupid, you want to be able to take over. Which I can if I need to, but anyway. Sorry if it's rude to talk and eat. I just don't want to have you sit here and just watch me eat the whole time, but just got a couple minutes and I'll be at our destination. This is the neighborhood. Just one more turn. We'll be there. I'm curious whether it's gonna just want to pull me up on the street at the address, or whether it'll pull into the driveway. Sometimes it does one, sometimes it does the other. And I'm gonna want to pull into the driveway. So if it looks like it's gonna pull me over to the curb, I'll go ahead and take over there and pull in. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and swing this out so I can pull into the driveway. Alright. Well, that is it. Hope you enjoyed the video. And I will catch you next time. Later.